So let's solve this equation on the interval from 0 to 2 pi. 4 sine squared theta plus 9 sine theta plus 5 equals 0. So for this problem, we want to actually factor this as if we were factoring a quadratic trinomial, right? Using the x in the boxes, if you will. So if you recall, we have to multiply 4 times 5. That's going to be 20. So that value goes up in the top of the x. And then 9. So we're looking for two numbers that multiply to be 20 and add to be 9. Well, they just happen to be 4 and 5. And then, so let's factor this. So it ends up being 4 sine squared theta plus 4 sine theta plus 5 sine theta plus 5 equals 0. So we're going to factor by grouping. So split these and factor out the common factor. So we can factor out a 4 sine theta times sine of theta plus 1. And then here we can factor out a 5, so plus 5 times the sine of theta plus 1 equals 0. These are the same factor, so those are going to be our first factor, sine of theta plus 1, times the quantity 4 sine theta plus 5. All of that is equal to 0. Use the zero product property and set each of these equal to 0. Sine of theta plus 1 equals 0. And then 4 sine of theta plus 5 equals 0. And then solve both of them for sine. So the sine of theta equals -1. And 4 sine of theta equals -5. Divide by 4. Divide by 4. And we have the sine of theta equals -5/4. Okay. So now, again, this is asking us what are the values of theta on the interval from 0 to 2 pi, where the y-coordinate is -1 on the unit circle. This only happens in one place, and that is at 3 pi over 2. And that's it. So that's going to be the solution for this part. And now we have to solve this. Now, -5 pi over 4, that's not a value that we know for any of our special angles on the unit circle. And it's actually not a value that the sine can be equal to. Because if you think about the sine of theta, we know that the sine of theta has a range from -1 to 1. That's its range. -5/4 is outside of that range. This is greater than -1 or less than -1, right? Its absolute value is greater than 1. It's greater than the value that the sine can even reach. So this is too big. This is not a valid output for the sine. So this is not going to give us any solutions. The only solution that we're going to have is 3 pi over 2. That's the only solution to this equation.